we're live.
Oh, I thought he was going to play a video. My bad.
Off to a great start here.
I'm waiting on a video to pop up. All right, welcome to the afternoon show presented by ESEN. I'm Gonzo, joined by Tony Gonzalez, also joined by Jay McLovin, Logan Landers, and Frankie C. How's it going, guys?
Off to a roaring start, I can tell you that much.
I can tell you how we're doing. You will not find a better run show than this. No, right here, right now, debut. Let's go, Frankie. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm glad that we actually finally got a afternoon show. That this is something that we've been wanting for a while. And we got our boy Chris Gonzo in here, man. It's been a long time since I did a show with Chris Gonzo and
Tony.
Tony, you haven't aged a goddamn day.
I'm trying not to.
He's using that good skin cream, you know.
Hey, Tony's the only guy I know that can hit 21, still get carded for another 15 years before, and then after the 15th year, going into year 16, they're actually still contemplating whether they should card him or not because nobody wants to get in trouble.
He was getting carded way after 21.
Yeah. Put it this way. I took Chris and my kids. Chris was probably 6 or 7 to a Reds game, and they were giving kids free watches. They give me a free watch.
I'd give you a free watch. I wouldn't want to get in trouble.
That's a true story.
Hey, Chris, just to go back to the beginning, we don't have a video quite yet. We're still working things out in the background, but we do have a song, of course, for the debut. I didn't want to go in just all cold and no love, no hype. So I'll play just a little bit right now, and y'all will get the full one here probably later on in the week when I get some more time to do some editing in the background. So without further ado, brought to you by it doesn't matter who it's from, but it's our debut afternoon show song. So I'll play a little snippet here. How about that?
Hey, before we start the show, I just want to go out and I want to give my thoughts and prayers to everyone that's going on with the LA wildfires and stuff. It's been really crazy right now in LA, and for all those who live in Los Angeles and are affected by all the wildfires, getting the houses burned down and some people losing lives, some people missing. We here at ESEN are praying for you. We have our thoughts and prayers for you guys, and we hope everyone is safe. We hope that people can reach out to those that are missing, and we apologize to the family members that actually lost, other family members to this crisis right now in LA.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely, Frankie. I'm glad you brought that up, man. We absolutely send our thoughts and prayers out to those in California. I can't even imagine what they're going through. I also want to continue to send our thoughts and prayers, though, out to those in North Carolina that are still out there in tents. We're all, East Coast, West Coast, man, we're all affected by it. And I hope everybody is able to pull through this. And here at ESEN, we are for sure praying for everybody.
Yep, no doubt about that. But guys, let's get into it, right? Let's talk about it. What are we talking about first?
I figured let's kick it off with the NFL playoffs since we
playoffs
the wild card weekend over the weekend. Saturday's game. Saturday's games were pretty much blowouts.
Which one are we talking first?
Yesterday's games were a little bit better, but let's start with the Steelers and the Ravens because there's been a lot come out of that game on whether Mike Tomlin is going to survive as coach and stuff as well. So a lot of stuff going on there.
How much can you accept mediocrity if you're in Pittsburgh? I'm just saying. Look, let me just say this: regular season. If you want 10 wins, if you want a winning season, that's fine. But when's the last time Coach Tomlin won a playoff game? What was it, 2017? When's the last time the Steelers won a Super Bowl? Well past that. I mean, at what point? I mean, we've seen, I would say more so in the NBA than anywhere else. I mean, coaches will win Coach of the Year, and they'll get canned, right? We just saw it, 2 seasons ago with Dwayne Casey. He won it with the Toronto Raptors, I believe, and got fired that same season. So it's all about what you can do as a team as a whole, not just in one part of the season. We've seen a lot of really good regular season coaches, but and we've seen a lot of coaches get success in the postseason and get elevated to larger contracts and more of a leeway. But I think it might be time for a shakeup, to be honest with you. Not saying he's a bad coach, but man, what are they doing? They're getting to the playoffs, which is great, but they're not doing anything.
Listen, Logan, here's the thing. I want you to think about a couple of things. Number one, the Steelers have only had 5 coaches in their entire existence. This is not a franchise that just switches quarterbacks on a dime. Frankie, no offense, but you guys have had like 7 coaches and more. So, no offense, and I'm not trying to give a hard time because, look, the Cowboys have had like 30 coaches, right?
Hey, my team's had 7 coaches in 10 years.
This is the kind of team that just jumped ship on a dime, right? And you got to say this. Tomlin, look, say what you want, but the guy still got them into the playoffs regardless. Look, they went from Brett Roethlisberger to Kenny Pickett and a bunch of other craziness, but he still keeps his team relevant even when the quarterback suggests otherwise. And what I mean by that is, look, take it one step further. Look at Russell Wilson. Dude leaves Seattle, goes to Denver, shits the bed, excuse my French, poops the bed in Denver, where even Sean Payton can't coach this guy. And this is the guy that resurrected Drew Brees' career and made him a superstar coming from San Diego. And look what he's done for Wilson in Pittsburgh. Look at him. Look at his stats. Russell Wilson has played pretty good. You can't put this loss on Russell Wilson. Even look, he even had Justin Fields. I mean, he's done something with nothing for a long period of time. And a coach that can do that, I gotta believe that. Give him a little bit more time because he is gonna get this team, I believe, resurrected back into contention. I got more on this game, but I'm gonna turn this over for Frankie. I know Frankie hadn't taught, and Gonzo, whoever else.
What you got, Frankie?
Yeah, I honestly, to me, I don't think Mike Tomlin should leave. He's a really great coach. We also got to remember this man has not had a losing season since he became head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I get what Jay's saying. You can't blame it on Mike Tomlin. You can't blame it on Russell Wilson. I'm gonna sit here and actually blame it on Russell Wilson because I've seen the game, and the man was throwing absolutely like. I don't want to say a bad term, and get us like kicked off, but his throws that he was throwing was like absolutely insane. I feel like, Russell Wilson is not the same that we've seen. Obviously, time has caught up to him quicker than most quarterbacks in the NFL. But I don't think that Russell Wilson is the answer. Just like Jay said, if Sean Payton couldn't do nothing with Russell Wilson, what makes you think Mike Tomlin is going to do something with him? I mean, they started off the season before this now 5-game losing streak to end their season. They started 10-3, and they finished it 10-7. 10-7.
They did it last year.
But hold on, Frankie, hold on a minute. Now, Russell Wilson, if you looked at his stats,
he wasn't the reason they lost yesterday.
Baltimore is a very good defensive-minded team. He still went 20 of 29 for 2 touchdowns. Now, he did take 4 sacks. That is on him. But also, he put up a QBR rating of he put up a rating, not a QBR. He put up a rating of 121.3. I mean, it's not like he did bad. Okay, you got to remember, in this game, the one big factor, who wasn't there on defense? Can anybody tell me who wasn't there? Don't worry about it. I'll give you the answer. TJ freaking Watt. You did not have TJ Watt. Could you imagine what Steelers defense could have done with TJ Watt there? How much more pressure or quarterback sacks would Lamar Jackson have taken if that was the case?
And Jay, I'm gonna read you this team stat here. So Russell Wilson threw for 270 yards. The Steelers' total offense in totals of yards had 280. There was no running game to speak of.
No.
They became a one-trick pony, and you can only do so much against a great Baltimore team on offense as well as on defense. The running game was absolutely abysmal. 11 carries for 29 yards as a team. Najee Harris, 2.8 yards per carry, just inexcusable. George Pickens was your top receiver with only 5 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown, but no one else was there to show up. And like I said, let's not even get started on defense. The defense just couldn't do anything. What was it? There's a 2nd and 20, I think, and they gave it up in one play. I mean, you just didn't see any alertness, any hunger. They looked flat the whole game.
Yeah,
and
they did.
Also, let's not forget, a team that looks flat. This is a historic franchise, right? We all know the Pittsburgh Steelers and what they've done as a unit and as a team over the years. But I was looking at more stats, right? So Mike Tomlin, in 18 seasons, he's been the head coach. You want to guess how many playoff wins he has in 18 seasons?
5.
Nope. One less than he has the amount of people on. Yeah, he has 4. 4 wins in 18 seasons. Come on. It might just be time, okay? I mean, Frankie, you can attest to this. If Bill Belichick can get fired, one of the greatest coaches of all time, who's to say Mike Tomlin can't?
No, I agree. Maybe I don't know, man. Look, here's the thing, man. He got more out of Russell Wilson than Sean Payton did. So if you're gonna fire him, you might as well fire Sean Payton, man. I'm not saying you're gonna fire Sean Payton.
What?
I'm just
fire Sean Payton.
I was going to say, wait a minute. What was
the Denver Broncos should have fired him.
Are you sure that he got more out of? Are you sure that he got more out of Wilson this year than what Payton did? Because if you look at Russell Wilson's numbers in Denver, they wasn't bad. He just wasn't
He wasn't the issue.
He had because he threw for like 28 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions last year in Denver.
But also, it also is other effects too. I mean, because look at Jerry Jeudy, a guy whose talent was wasted in Denver, obviously. Then he goes to Cleveland, who's a horrible team, but he puts up over 1,000 receiving yards.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a mixture of a lot of things, but I'm just saying is that the way with Mike Tomlin is, yes, he's good, he's consistent. We know all this already. They've been talking about it ad nauseum for years. But I'm looking here, and I found this on a Facebook post, and there's 25. It says of the 25 coaches with 15 plus playoff appearances, Tomlin's playoff winning percentage is 23rd at only 421. I mean,
think about it like this. Okay, you're right. Okay, to make your point for Tomlin, I'll give you that because look, they only ran the ball 11 times.
They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball.
It's not the fact that they couldn't run the ball.
It
was the fact that they didn't even give the running a chance. They only ran it 11 times, and they were averaging 2.6 a carry, but only 11. Look, sometimes.
But like I said, when it goes back to the defense, when you're down 21-0 at halftime, what can you do? You can't run the ball.
Yeah, they couldn't run the ball because
you don't have the chance.
They didn't run the ball that game because of the way the game went. You can't when you're down.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
You were down in such a big hole.
Okay. But how much of this loss do you put on Tomlin or Russell Wilson or Najee Harris? How much of it do you put on the fact that the defense? I got to tell you, man, T.J. Watt is a huge factor in that game. That's not the fact he wasn't there. How would the Baltimore Ravens done without Ray Lewis?
I mean, here's my opinion on it. I wouldn't get rid of Tomlin because grass isn't always greener on the other side. Right now, you got a stable franchise. Yes, he hasn't had the.
I agree.
He hasn't had the production in the playoffs you want, but a lot of that is they haven't been able to find a quarterback since they lost Roethlisberger.
Let's not forget too that both their quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, are going to be free agents this year.
Yeah, they ain't been able to find that guy to replace Roethlisberger yet to be able to go on that kind of run.
So
exactly.
You get rid of a guy like Tomlin, he's such a good leader. You could end up in a situation like the Indianapolis Colts or the Miami Dolphins, these other organizations that have coaches that have no culture in their building, where players are just doing whatever the hell they want.
And let me I need to find this quote here, but I mean, I think it's kind of.
What the hell is that on the screen?
That's the third Gonzo.
Hey, you know what that was? Hey, you ever seen the blimp? How the blimp goes over your sky and it has that message? Gonzo, next time if you're gonna put a ticker that has 4 legs on it, strap a damn sign to his ass.
I thought that was a skunk for a minute.
What's your thoughts on it?
Hey, look,
I think they'd be crazy to do it.
Hold on, James. Hold on.
Hey, listen. Here are the two.
Jay.
Hold on.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead, Tony.
I think they'd be crazy to get rid of him. I think that first of all, I don't think Pittsburgh's got a strong enough roster to be a Super Bowl team right now.
No, nowhere close.
I agree with that.
Nowhere at all.
I think that's the issue. Is they don't have a strong enough roster. I think he got the most out of that team. What they went on a 4, 5, 6 game win streak. I know they lost 3 or 4 in a row too, but I don't think it's the coach's fault. I think it's the roster. And they talk about T.J. Watt. One thing about Watt, didn't he get hurt every year?
He did get hurt. Yeah. He wasn't in the game. That's the thing. Is that he wasn't a factor.
And I wanted to throw that out to Jay.
What's up, hypocrisy?
Jay's going and saying, like, if T.J. Watt was in this game, it will be a different maker. I don't think so because let's not forget, they played the Ravens twice a year. They had T.J. Watt both those games, and they didn't win against the Ravens.
Right.
That's a good point.
That's a good point, Frankie. That's a damn good point.
So I found this clip here of George Pickens, and also you can check us out over on Twitter if you want to see any of our other content over there.
Look at this picture. It makes me now want to pick him up next year in fantasy.
So you can go follow us over on the ESEN X account or whatever you want to call it. This is George Pickens after the game, and I just want to get your reaction to this if you haven't seen it about his comments post game. Here we go.
You've been with this offense now for 3 years. Have you seen signs of growth, and how much more does this team still need to grow offensively?
Yeah, I've seen signs of growth for sure. From past, the first year I've been here, just way more growth for sure.
Does that make you optimistic going forward?
Nah.
Brutal honesty.
That's
listen. When your season ends,
optimistic going forward, is it?
He's nah.
Listen, when your season ends and you got to do your last press conference of the year, you say whatever the hell you got to say.
And that's what it was.
Listen, when you on a team of Mike Tomlin, I wouldn't be surprised they shipped this man out.
You're gonna get your top wide receiver out of there? Who else they got?
They can get a wide receiver in the draft.
No, you could. You can.
I could see him getting rid of Pickens. I agree, Frankie, because
you can get some for him.
He's caused a lot of drama all season long.
How many times? Chris? How many times have we seen this season Mike Tomlin get in the face of George Pickens? Multiple times in many games.
He said, "Can't be mad not winning in the playoffs if you can't win it all in December, anyways." That's a good point because, look, I think it starts in the locker room, right? It starts in the locker room. And what you see in the locker room, it goes out on the field. What I've seen over this Pittsburgh Steelers team over the last few months, really, is they look uninterested. They don't look like they want to win. They look like they're just collecting a paycheck.
Yep.
I mean, and also, if any other team, if George Pickens says that, he has too many drop balls. But at the same time, he's the one you could throw it to. No one else is doing anything. Najee Harris was your second best receiver yesterday. I mean,
let me give you three stats real quick.
Go ahead.
Let me give you three stats real quick. These are the hugest stats. This is more than just Pickens, right? And I agree. Pickens should be. Look, anytime you come out and you publicly say that about your team, you're already a toxic cancer, right? But let me give you three stats. Pittsburgh had 280 total yards, 11 first downs, and time of possession at 21 minutes and 27 seconds. Then you look at Baltimore, and they literally destroy them in all three of these categories. Baltimore goes for 464 total yards, 29 first downs, and averages 39.33 minutes time of possession. Look, if they're on the field more than you, and they're out producing you, by double the amount of yards and double the amount of first downs, there's no way in hell you're going to win that game. And my question is, if TJ Watt was there, and I'm not saying, Frankie, that he would have made that much of a difference, but I do think that if TJ was there, that he would have at least maybe kept Lamar Jackson guessing. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you got a guy like Derrick Henry running for the amount of yards that he ran, which, by the way, was well over 100-plus yards, and then you got Lamar Jackson giving you 81-plus yards, you're basically chasing shadows. And if you watch that game on defense, literally Pittsburgh Steelers were chasing shadows.
And let me say this, like I said, go back to the defense, which I thought was the biggest issue, right? And so it's that in the running game. You could put those as factors 1 and 2 either way. They only had 1 sack in the ball game, 5 tackles for loss, and only 1 quarterback hit the entire game. I mean, you can't win with no pressure on the quarterback and your offense just having one reliable source, not being Russell Wilson. I mean, you're not going to win that way, and that's what we saw. But I mean, a lot of people suspected the Ravens would win this game, and they did pretty handily. Also, I get it was only, they won by 2 scores, but they could have easily won by a lot more, I feel.
Well, I mean, think about the 3 stats I just gave you. This game was more than just that score, right? I mean, those 3 stats alone shows you pure domination, right? Which, I mean, to Frankie's point, Pittsburgh didn't get Baltimore even with TJ Watt those 2 times. What makes you think they're going to get them at the biggest stage of America, right?
Mm-hmm. It's also tough. It's also tough to face your division rival 3 times a year.
No, well, yeah, it is, but also that means you know them more. Go ahead.
Oh no! All I was going to add was nobody expected Pittsburgh to win that game, so that's why now that they lost, to me, everybody wanting to get rid of Tomlin is kind of blown out of proportion. Nobody expected them to win that game anyway. Baltimore might be the best team in the NFL. I mean, with their roster and when their defense plays up to like they did this weekend,
their defense can be inconsistent.
They're going to be tough.
It can, but yeah, but I mean, Baltimore looked like they've looked pretty much all year. I mean, Lamar Jackson did his thing, 16, 21, 2 TDs, 175, also ran the ball for 81. Look, if him and Henry are both clicking, it's hard to stop them because you have a freight train like Derrick Henry and you've got Lamar Jackson, who is, the best running quarterback in the league, bar none.
Yeah, their offense is hard to stop, and if their defense is on, you could be in big trouble.
Call me crazy.
I agree with hypocrisy, Jones. Firing Tomlin, and I think Tony backed it up. It would be wild if they fired Tomlin. Like I said, given their history and how they deal with their coaches, I just don't see that happening. As long as this guy is keeping them in the playoffs, even with the inferior offensive things that they have, like Gonzo had pointed out, it is what it is, man. And he's going to come back, and they're going to have to figure that out going forward. Obviously, I think Pickens, like everybody has talked about, is kind of a toxic, so they're going to have to figure that situation out. But Hypocrisy Jones says that Philly did a great job. And Hypocrisy Jones, I'm going to tell you, we're not going to get in a game just yet because we got a few more games to get through. But when we get to that, I want you to stay tuned to this because Philly didn't look as good as you think they did. And I got a lot to say about that Philly game. But before we get there, Gonzo, what's our next game? Or let's get something else to add.
I think Frankie was going to say something there.
Oh, go ahead, Frank.
Yep, go ahead and we'll wrap this one up.
First thing I was going to say is it's nice to see your girlfriend in the background, Logan. The second thing I was going to say is call me crazy, but adding Derrick Henry to the Baltimore Ravens, it just made them more of a.
Oh, did we lose him?
No, I think he just wanted us to finish that sentence. But hey, we'll come back.
I lost him for a second.
Gonzo, what's our next game, brother?
We'll get into that one.
Yeah, let's move on to the game that with Buffalo and Denver because that's who Baltimore is going to be playing now. Is going to be Buffalo. Denver got off to a quick start, got that 7-0 lead, and then after that it was all Buffalo. I thought what was interesting in that game is everybody wants to talk about Josh Allen's arm and all that. But if you noticed, every time they got, especially in the first half, if it got to 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4 and less, they were running the ball with Allen every time. I think he had 6 first downs in that first quarter on 3rd or 4th down. That first half, every time they got in 3rd or 4 or shorter, it was given Allen was running the ball, and Denver could not stop it at all.
I'm with you. And I think as good as Josh Allen looked, I don't think the team would have looked as good if it wasn't for how well James Cook ran the ball. 23 carries, 120 yards. And that's the thing we've talked about with Buffalo for years now, it feels like. If they don't have a running game, the running game is inconsistent. They don't have nearly as much production. But, if you can get half of what he had yesterday, then they have a really good chance.
And the other running back they have had a hell of a game too, that Johnson.
Yeah, 9 carries for 44. That's all you need for him.
And I think he caught maybe 4 or 5 balls as well.
He got 2 catches for 26, but he had a touchdown, 1 for 24. Yeah. So he had a big play.
A couple of things I wanted to point out about this game that kind of really stuck with me more than just the 31-7 blowout. The first thing I want to point out is, Denver started off the game beautifully. First possession, touchdown. Bo Nix looking good, team's looking good, but then after that, it was just kind of all Buffalo after that. But the one thing I want to point out is there was a lot of theatrics on that Denver sideline. I don't know if y'all were checking that, but Sean Payton was obviously having an angry conversation with his defensive coordinator, and then he was also having issues with Bo Nix. And there was a lot of theatrics that was on that Denver sideline that I think there was some confusion and some anger about, what they were expecting they could go on between that coordinator and Sean Payton. So that's kind of something I want to take into next season is will that defensive coordinator still be there, or will Sean Payton have had enough of that coordinator and let it go? I don't know what was said in those conversations. Yeah. I just know that you could see them animatedly going at each other on the sideline. The last thing I want to point out is, again, this game was very similar to the Pittsburgh and Baltimore game in terms of those three stats I was telling you. When you look at Denver, they had 224 total yards, and then Buffalo had 471 total yards. I mean, that's a blowout in and of itself. Then when you look at first downs, it's literally 13 for Denver, double that to 26 for Buffalo. And then when you look at the time of possession, which to me is the biggest key of all, you got Denver at 18 minutes and 17 seconds. That's usually what people average in one half. That's what they averaged in the whole game. And then when you look at what Buffalo did, they did 41 minutes and 43 seconds. I'm sorry. You will not win a game if your offense is barely on the field.
No. And to speak about, just like you said, the stuff on the sidelines, I think that was just emotions running high, right? The playoff game and stuff like that. I don't know if it's anything deeper than that. But for me, I mean, look, I didn't expect Denver to even make it to the playoffs. So, I mean, they exceeded my expectations personally. Bo Nix looked like a rookie in this game. Am I wrong? He didn't look great. The running game was just not there, for God's sake. They couldn't do anything running wise. Like you said, they didn't have the ball. They couldn't keep possession of the ball.
The big difference in this game was after that first possession by Denver was Buffalo just destroyed Denver on the line of scrimmage. On both sides of the ball the rest of the game.
Yeah. I mean, also it's tough too because Buffalo's undefeated at home. They have not lost a home game this whole season. So that moves them to, I believe, 8-0 on the year. So if you can get them out there in New York, they're tough to beat, obviously. And like I said, Denver, I didn't expect them to make it to the playoffs. So, I mean, look, they lost first round. They got beat. They got the biggest blowout loss. But, I mean, I still consider this a success season for them because I thought they'd be third or fourth in the West. So, you know,
especially with like an $80 million cap hit.
Yeah, really. So, I mean, I credit, Sean Payton and Bo Nix for putting it together a good season. But, I mean, look, 99 out of 100 people would have thought this was going to happen. The only one would have been out there in Denver. So, I think that's
a question. Let me ask you a question. I got a couple of points that I'm going to ask each of you, all three of you, the same question and see what your answer is. Buffalo, this is Buffalo's 5th straight postseason. 5th. The question I'm going to ask you, but don't answer this yet, because I got a couple points I want to make. But the question I'm going to ask you guys is this. If they don't produce this postseason, let's say Baltimore goes in there and just spanks them, and they don't produce, will Sean McDermott be on the hot seat? Because he, just like Tomlin, wasn't producing. I'm going to come back to that for just 1 second. Denver turned the ball over twice on downs. Twice. Yep. And then Buffalo, I apologize. James Cook, that's what I want to talk about. James Cook is the first Buffalo running back to top 100 yards since Thurman Thomas did it back in 1995. Where he put up 158 yards in a wild card game against Miami. So James Cook, I told everybody, I said, "Why? Jim Cook's going to come out and do something." He did, man. He produced. He can do over 120 yards and a touch in this game against Denver's defense, which, by the way, is ranked number 2 in the league behind Minnesota, which I think is ranked number 1. So James Cook did a damn good job against a really incredible defense. And this is a guy who's competing up against Thurman Thomas back in 95. I mean, that's incredible. So my question is this. All of this stuff is building up and looking really, really nice for Buffalo, right? Really nice. We all know back in the 90s, Tony, I know you were there. Gonzo, you may have been there. I don't remember when you were born, but you could have been there. But back in their 90s.
I was there.
I'm trying to give you a compliment. I'm saying you look young, you son. Yeah. But I'm just saying, look. Them dudes went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost them all. But yet Marv Levy kept the job until he retired. Do you think Sean McDermott can survive a number 5th, especially with all of this momentum in their favor? But yet if he lays the goose egg, does he retain his job? Logan, you can start it off, and then Gonzo, Tony.
I would say they have to win this game. If they don't win against Baltimore, if they don't win their division, I'd say that he might be on the hot seat. Only say that, Jay, because the last time they went to the conference championship was back in 2020, which is now 5 years ago. Other than that, they've been knocked out by the Kansas City Chiefs in 21, the Bengals in 22, the Chiefs again, and then as we might see again, the Baltimore Ravens in 24-25. So I'd say they have to win this game if McDermott wants to feel comfortable, because he can say, look, I've taken you to 2 conference championships over the last 5 years or whatnot. Which, I mean, look, if you're really any coach, that's, I think, a good indicator about how successful you've been. Like you said, they've been dominating the AFC East for really since Belichick got out of there. Miami's been disappointing. There's no even point in speaking about the Jets today. So they are the kingpins, right, of that division right now. But I would say that if they make it past this game, I wouldn't worry about him being fired. But I mean, everyone's been saying this is a team that should make it to the Super Bowl, but they've got a tough task in Baltimore this next week.
I don't think there's any way they'd let them go, unless they got blew out, maybe got beat, 30-0 or really bad. Then they may consider.
They're too good of a team for that to happen, though.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So I don't think there's any way. I mean, basically, this team got better by getting rid of people last year. I mean, they got rid of the receiver.
They did. They did.
They lose Stephon Diggs and they get better.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, sometimes that happens. So yeah, I think they'd be crazy. I hope they get rid of him. I hope the other coaches. I hope they get rid of him. I hope the Colts get him.
You want the Colts to pick them up?
I hope the Colts get rid of their coaches, the general manager, maybe the owner.
Definitely no team bias there, right?
Yeah,
not at all.
No,
I
Tony
agree.
said
Jim Irsay, you're on notice.
I don't. If they lose this game, I still think he'll be fine. Because my whole thing is who's out there that's a better coach. Who are you going to replace him with?
It's tough.
And know what you're going to get. Yeah, you haven't got to the Super Bowl yet, but you're also in the same conference with Mahomes and the Chiefs that's been running things for the last
back-to-back
6 years, and you were 13 seconds away from beating them a few years ago. And who knows, you might have had a Super Bowl. So I don't think he'd be gone if they lose this game. Now, if they'd have lost yesterday's game,
maybe
I think there'd have been a bigger conversation getting beat in the first round of the playoffs by a Denver team that nobody thought would be in the playoffs.
No,
but since they already, you have to remember they lost to Baltimore earlier this season as well. So that was another thing I was going to bring up is what do you guys think about that matchup coming up as Baltimore and Buffalo next round when Baltimore pretty much dominated Buffalo.
We'll save that because we're doing everyday shows. We got plenty of time to talk about that. We'll just do some recaps right now.
One more tidbit of crazy information. When I was talking about the momentum that Buffalo is bringing up, not only did James Cook break or compete right with the first running back to go over 100 yards, but Josh Allen did something interesting.
What's that?
No, Josh Allen did something interesting. He has had 23 touchdown passes now to Jim Kelly's 21.
Interesting.
I'm just saying
that could be reversing the curse. Who knows?
I'm just saying. But we'll get more to the predictions. I would imagine tomorrow's show. I would imagine we're doing
a bold take here from Hypocrisy Joe. Oh, look, I hope you're talking about the Colts and not the Bills.
Yeah, he's talking about the Colts.
Okay, he says get rid of everyone and let's lose for Arch. Archie is 75. He ain't on the field. But
I agree with you, Joe.
Look, just real quick. He's very hyped up. He hasn't played a whole season yet. We gotta wait. We gotta wait these things out for God's sake. All right. He hasn't even played a whole season yet. So let's.
Hey, but I like where he's going because when we get to college football,
just wait. Just wait. Jay's got a whole soliloquy on the Longhorns, I think.
What's next, Chris? What's the next game?
All right, next game we have is Packers and Eagles.
Do we need to talk about this one? God,
we're waiting for this one. I got a lot to say. Do you mind if I start this off? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Wait a minute. I have a problem. I don't want Jay to start it off.
He said, I don't care. He's a Manning. That don't mean nothing.
He is a Manning. Hey,
that don't mean anything. That's just the last name.
That's how we all feel at Indianapolis. So Manning, if you're a Manning, you're royalty at Indianapolis.
Let's not forget that Cooper Manning. Cooper Manning,
best one.
I know. Cooper Manning was, as a lot of the Mannings have said, was the more prolific Manning athlete. It's just he had injury
for sure.
You never know, man. The apple ain't falling too far from that tree. I mean, every man has come out, including the grandfather, has been extremely well. So
it's just he played on those horrible Saints teams back when they had the bags over their head. But
but look, the Eagles took out the Packers 22-10. 22-10. Now, Hypocrisy Jones, this is where I'm coming from when I was telling you a minute ago. Look, you were going up against a team, let's be honest, that was coming into this game already injury plagued. no Christian Watson. A couple of guys on your defense were gone. Then you go into the game and you lose Josh Reed, you lose Dobbs, you lose the center. Now they had a freshman center after that point. This team, it's not like you were going in there playing the best of the best. You were playing the best of the injured, okay? And you hobbled into a 12-point win. 12 points. You think you're going to take this game and then go up against Minnesota, Detroit, or whoever else it is you actually play up against and think you're going to be able to just go in there and play like that and come away with the win? Are you kidding me right now? Look, here's the deal. Love went 20 of 33, 3 interceptions, 2 sacks, 37 QBR. But you also got to remember that Love, just the previous game, had no feeling in his freaking hand. So it's not like you got the best of Love, okay? No. Let's be honest. You got a hobbled freaking Love out there. You're going up against Special Olympics Packers, and you think that's a great win, and you're making the best of the best? Are you kidding me?
Wait a minute. Now we're giving sympathy for injuries.
No.
I mean, Detroit Lions has the most. They have the most injuries out of anybody. They have their whole defense on IR.
But Jay, talking about injuries real quick, Nakobe Dean came out today. He's going to be out for the rest of the postseason. He hurt his knee. So I mean that's their top linebacker. That's their starting linebacker who's going to be out now. Obviously a guy who's a disruptor, and he had 2 tackles for loss. 2 of the 4 tackles for loss yesterday. So that's a big blow for the Eagles team. And look, I know that their defense did well. They had 3 interceptions, which you'd love to see. Tony, Chris, I'm sure you guys saw the failed pedigree attempt in the end zone with the celebration. That looked just – I think he slipped on his cleats on the turf, but it could have looked a lot smoother, I think. But to be fair, though, I think Jalen Hurts is the reason the Packers were kind of in this game. I mean, he didn't look great. He didn't look great at all. 13 of 21 is, kind of pedestrian, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he didn't look great. And if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley doing what he does, which be one of the best running backs in the league, the Packers had a real chance of winning this game. So I didn't think that Philadelphia was going to dominate. I didn't think they were going to win 35-0, nothing crazy like that. But I thought they'd look a little bit sharper, but they look kind of sloppy, which is a little bit concerning in my eyes. But, if Saquon can keep doing what he does and Jalen Hurts can keep his head above water, then they do have a real chance. But it is going to hurt, though, now that they've lost one of their best defensive players. But they still have a really good team over there on offense and defense in Philly.
Let me say one thing before I give the total floor to Tony and Gonzo to wrap this up. Here's my thing, right? Like you said, he went 13 of 21. Now, mind you, Jalen Hurts is a hometown boy for me. I mean, literally, he grew up next door to where I lived, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a Channelview boy. I was a North Shore boy. But one street that separated our 2 subdivisions, right? So, I mean, he's close and dear to my heart, right? But with that being said, I still got to hold him accountable. 13 of 21 for 131, 2 touchdowns and 2 sacks with a 62.3 QBR. I will tell you this. The bright side for Philly outside of Saquon was a highlight reel where Go Dirt got the ball and stiff arms old boy twice and miss in the end zone. That was the highlight play of the game for me. But I got to tell you, Gonzo, before I get this over to you, look, Green Bay was out there top 3 receivers for the majority of the game. That's number 1. And number 2, Green Bay's defense really did a hell of a good job on Philadelphia, and Philadelphia was at full strength, and they kept them dudes at bay. I mean, we're only talking about 12-point differential. You got to remember, Green Bay had 4 turnovers. 3 of those turnovers were 3 interceptions by Philadelphia. 3 interceptions, and all you can come away with is a 12-point victory. And you want to tell me that you're going to be a Super Bowl caliber team? Nah, not even in the realm, brother. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Gonzo, Tony, what do y'all got, brothers?
I think the Eagles are going to have a tough matchup. I mean, their next matchup will be the Rams or the Vikings. They're going to have to play a lot better. Out tonight. They're going to have to play a lot better to beat either one of those teams. If they play like they did this game, I think they're going to be in trouble, even at home. So that's my take. Like I said, Green Bay got off to a horrible start. I mean, they lost the ball right there on the first play of the game, and give up 7 points right off the bat. So Packers did. So I think Eagles were lucky to win that game, really. all things considered, how bad Green Bay played even.
Yeah,
Hi, Abby.
I
Good to see you in front of the team.
Yeah, I wasn't real impressed with Eagles as well. I know when I got home last night, I told Dad, I said that Bay's defense played a hell of a game for Green Bay to be in that game and turn the ball over as many times. But all I heard all year is how the Eagles have the best roster in football. If you watch them play, I haven't seen that all year. If Saquon Barkley can't rush for over 100 yards, they're in trouble. Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, has regressed.
He's been pedestrian all year.
Over the last 2 seasons. 2 years ago when he was with Steichen, he was up there MVP, and they went to the Super Bowl and lost. But since then, if you look at his numbers, he's really regressed.
Yeah, I have his numbers
they got
here.
To figure that out, and also Philadelphia is another team you were bringing up. Jay brought up Denver was barking on the sidelines and stuff. Philadelphia always has something going on the sidelines or off the field. Whether it's A.J. Brown complaining about not getting the ball enough or another guy, I just don't know if they have that kind of chemistry to go on a deep playoff run.
And look,
I think they're going to have trouble with whichever team wins tonight.
And I'm not looking super into it that he was reading on the sideline. I don't care. I mean, look, he wasn't fighting. He was just reading a book. He said that's what relaxes him. So hey, do you, man? I don't care. But I will say just real quick before I give it back to you, Tony, I found Jalen Hurts stats for the year, and it's very just mediocre. 20th in the league in yards with 2,900, tied for 20th in terms of touchdowns with 18, tied for 72nd with interceptions with 5. I mean, his QBR is good at number 10, but I mean, these aren't, elite numbers by any means necessary. You could find another quarterback to do what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% on that. And everybody always is putting all the blame on Sirianni for some of the Eagles' struggles, where I think some of it is coming down. They're not getting to play out of their quarterback that they thought they were going to get.
Good point.
A couple of years ago.
And you would think with the running game being as good as it is, that Hurts' numbers would be better. That he would
open it up better. Yeah.
Yeah, that he would have a better opportunity to do better with that running game, but it hasn't been better.
Absolutely. And you got to imagine, Sirianni did a good job. Look, this is a team that last year in the locker room was full of toxicity. I mean, Brown and Hurts, there was something going on between the two of them. I heard what it was, but I don't want to spread a rumor, so I'm not going to say it. But there was definitely some stuff going on between him and Brown. There was just a lot of chemistry problems on that offense last year. And I think we saw it in some of the losses that they took. So I'm not sold on this Philly team at all, man. Like you said,
they have a lot of issues.
Yeah, they got some issues over there still.
Yeah,
I don't think all the issues are fully resolved.
No. But,
let's talk about what was probably the game of the weekend in the NFL, where you had the Washington Commanders, almost said the wrong team name, kicking a doink field goal there at the end that happened to go in to win the game. What do you guys think about that Tampa and Washington game last night? And tell you what, Jay Daniels has been impressive this year for a rookie.
Yeah, he has.
First off, to go from picking number 2 in the draft just a few months ago to now going to your divisional playoff round, I mean, hats off to Dan Quinn, the GM over there in Washington. Of course, all the players, obviously, but I mean, they've done a complete 180 for God's sake. Team that looked down in the dumps. Right, they say, "Oh, you picked Jaden Daniels. All right, he's a great player at LSU, but they don't really have anyone else, right? They don't really have a whole lot of star power. Just good about 500, maybe give or take, and it'll be a good season. But who the hell thought this was going to happen? I mean, they go a very dominant 12-5. They won a lot of really close games, which is big, and they continue to do so. If I'm a Washington fan, I'm nervous as hell watching Zane Gonzalez, who was over there fidgeting with his hair, taking his cleats off, adjusting his socks. I mean, the dude just basically had nervous written across his forehead. But I mean, hey, that's just how some guys are. It is what it is. But he doinked it in, and it went in. That's just kind of how Washington seasons went so far. They're getting all the good breaks. I mean, the Hail Mary against Chicago, obviously. A bunch of other games that have had crazy endings. But, I mean, going into this game, though, I mean, Jaden Daniels. I mean, what more can you say? Rookie of the year, more than likely. It's either going to be him or Brock Bowers. Those are the top 2 guys, I think, drafted out of this class. But, I mean, he went 24-35, 268, 2 touchdowns, no picks, only 1 sack. So, I mean, you can't get a whole lot better than that. He was the top rusher on the day as well, which if they lost, that would have been the key point there. But they won. And I mean, look at the guys they threw it to. A lot of guys he was just spreading the ball around. There wasn't one super dominant receiver per se. I mean, McLaurin and Brown had 5 and 7 catchers respectively, each for only 89 yards each. But I mean, there was a lot of other guys getting the ball too. I mean, you saw Austin Eckler get a few passes, Brian Robinson Jr. I mean, you didn't know who he was going to throw it to, which that's how you trick defenses. Because if you just spread the ball around, they don't double anyone up. I thought the defense from Washington held their own. I mean, we saw the very end there with Mayfield on the botched jet sweep, which I thought was a very just questionable call about them going for that call when he fumbled it and whatnot. But I mean, I thought that Washington played a good game. And for Tampa, disappointing into the year, but I mean, I don't know how you don't give Baker Mayfield the chance to throw the ball more, guys. Only 18 throws all game. I mean, the guy had how many passing yards, how many passing touchdowns this year? 41 touchdowns, 4,500 yards, but you only let him throw it 18 times? Granted, he was 15 of 18, but Todd Bowles, give him the ball more. Bucky Irvin wasn't getting it done. 17 carries for 77 yards. That's okay. But when you have one of the better quarterbacks in the league this year, why don't you let him throw it more? I mean, that just was kind of questionable to me, but I felt like Tampa could have won this game, but unfortunately, just a couple of bad decisions and a little bit of luck gave Washington their first playoff win, guys, since 2006. It's been almost 20 years since they won a playoff game. So I mean that definitely I think cemented who's the best quarterback in this draft class so far this year, and that's Jaden Daniels, bar none.
Yeah, here's the thing. It was like you said, it was really the best game of the weekend at 23-20. It's the only game that had me on my edge of my seat saying, "Damn, who's going to win this game?" Because it's so close. Two takeaways on the quarterbacks that I took away. One is Baker Mayfield is one of the toughest quarterbacks I have ever seen. And if you don't believe me, go watch that one where he ran that ball. I think it was I want to say it was. I don't remember what part of the game it was, but it was more towards the middle part of the game where he had that long run, and then he literally went chest to chest with oh boy and pushed him back. I mean, he had like two guys head on twice and still kept plowing. I mean, you just don't see that in the league. A guy that can do that, not get hurt. I mean, tough guy. And like you said, Jaden Daniels. I mean, this is a guy's a rookie. He reminds me of C.J. Stroud last year when C.J. Stroud took the Texans as far as he did. I mean, he's kind of like following that C.J. Stroud path of success, right? I mean, it's just incredible. You look at Tampa Bay, they were double spying him at times to the point where when they double spied him, he was able to throw it opened up the middle of the field for other wide receivers to catch the ball. I mean, that's really the kind of presence that Jaden Daniels commands from the defenses. You got to double spy me, but when you double spy me, you're going to open up my wide receivers. I'm going to kill you that way. I mean, it's phenomenal to watch this rookie do what he does. And like you said, Logan, they didn't run the ball for anything. I mean, what are you talking about? When 13 for 36, that's your leading rusher, you got a problem.
And he's your quarterback, yeah.
And yes, you got the win. I get you got the win. But when you go up against Detroit next, that's going to hurt you. And let's be honest, if it wasn't for that doink, which saved their ass, we might be talking about a different team winning this. And I felt bad for Baker. I felt like Baker did do all that he could, only to come away with that loss. The Washington rush, I said 33 attempts at 82 yards. That's 2.5 yards a carry. I thought the biggest thing, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. I thought the biggest thing for me was that fumble that Baker had at the very end of the game, which obviously led to their loss, led to that field goal attempt. Had he not fumbled that, and gone for that field goal, I mean, we could be talking about a different game here, So Baker did have a couple of pivotal issues, right?
No, and one more thing too, I want to highlight. Let's not forget that 4th down conversion they had for the touchdown there in the end. There in the red zone. It was 4th and 2, and Daniels had that touchdown pass. So, I mean, if that would have been broken up or anything, it could have been a different ballgame because that's what put him ahead. That's what gave him 20 points. And obviously we saw what happened next. So that was obviously a key play that gave him some momentum.
Absolutely. What's our last game? I think we got Houston, right? If I'm not mistaken, Gonzo.
Houston and Los Angeles. But what do you guys have any comments on the Texans game? Excuse me, on the Commanders game?
No, I like Washington. I've seen him play quite a bit this year. I've seen him play quite a bit this year, and I like Daniels a lot. I think they could give. I'm not going to predict they're going to beat Detroit, but with their offense, if they can handle some of the pressure of Detroit's defense, because Detroit's back end is hurt, I think if he can move around, I think Daniels could put some hurt on Detroit's defense. I think offensively, they've got the best chance to stay with Detroit out of the teams that are left. I think they're better offensively than the Eagles and some of the other teams that are still left. But I would never predict them to beat Detroit at this point. But I think they could match up with them. It could be a good game.
I like Washington, but I also think yesterday's game is a little deceiving as well. Because if you look at the stats of that game, Washington should have won that game pretty easily. I mean, they possessed the ball for over 10 minutes longer, had 15 first downs, won the turnover battle, but they passed up a lot of points. There was at least twice in the first half where they could have had field goals, passed up 6 points, and that could have very well came back and cost them that game. I mean, you get down 3-0 at the beginning of the game, you get in field goal range there, and you decide to go for it on fourth down, don't get no points. They did that 2 or 3 times in that game, and when you get to playoffs, I understand regular season, a lot of these guys are getting more aggressive like that, but when you get in the playoffs, it's harder to turn down points like that, and a lot of times when you turn down points, it comes back and costs you the game. Washington was able to survive it, but it was, to me, Tampa kind of gave them that game, because if you look at the numbers, Tampa really shouldn't have been in that game because Washington kind of dominated the time of possession and everything, but Washington wasn't able to put it away and kind of let them stay in the game by passing up points.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, we got one more playoff game. What we got?
Houston,
what was that? It was Houston, wasn't it? Houston and Chargers. I didn't get to watch that game, but
yeah,
I'll be honest. I was surprised about that game. I thought the Chargers would win that game. I was really disappointed in the way the Chargers defense came out and played. If you watched them throughout the season, that's kind of carried them. I know Herbert had a bad game. He only thrown 3 interceptions all damn year, and then throws 4 in one game. But I thought the Chargers would come out with a little more spark to them than what they did.
Yeah, I mean, it was a mess for LA. I mean, they looked just disheveled. I don't know what the hell the problem was. They just did not look good at all. It was pretty much Ladd McConkey on the offense and anyone else that wanted to maybe pitch in. But he was their best player, obviously. 9 catches for almost 200 yards. I mean,
he's really the only receiver they have.
Yeah, he's the only. I mean, and this is a guy who wasn't even a first-round pick, mind you. He was drafted in the 2nd round, and he's their best. He was their best receiver. I mean, where was DJ Chark? Where was Johnston? Where was everyone else? Disley, their other guy. What were they doing? Just playing on the sideline? Just watching any of our games? Just playing? I mean, I don't know what was going on. But I mean, he was. If it wasn't for McConkey and how well he got open and whatnot, he had 14 targets. I mean, if it wasn't for him, this game would have been anywhere close. Herbert, right. I mean, look, he's looked rough just in the playoffs, right? So it's only been 2 playoff games, but 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Not what you want. And he's only thrown for an average of 257.5 yards, which is one of the best passing quarterbacks in the league. But I mean, the running game was horrible. I mean, I get Edwards and Dobbins were banged up, but I mean, you figure you could do something a little more than 50 yards as a team. And like I said, the defense, they got 3 sacks. They got 7 tackles for lost, couple passes defended. They got, the 1 interception, but it wasn't enough. It don't mean nothing if your offense can't score points. I mean, despite all those numbers I just gave you on defense, Houston's offense was still better. C.J. Stroud had a nice bounce back performance. He wasn't dominant, but he had a good showing. But for me, I mean, Joe Mixon was one of the main reasons they won that game. 25 carries, 106, and a touchdown. I mean, I also think they were motivated too because Rex Ryan said earlier in the week that this was going to be a bye week for the Chargers, which was just disrespectful as all hell. And so I think that helped motivate the Texans to go out there and just beat them up at home. But I mean, I thought that Houston, they got the win 32. They won by 20. I mean, I thought they looked good. They had 4. I thought their defense played better than Los Angeles, which was surprising to me. I mean, they had 4 sacks. I mean, they had 5 tackles for loss and 11 passes defended. So, I mean, they look good. Also, let's not forget the 4 picks. Can't disrupt that, which one went to the house. So, I thought that Houston had a really good performance after they've kind of looked lackluster here in somewhat recent regular season weeks. And I thought, C.J. Stroud, he got hot at the right time. So, maybe this can help them in the next round. But I was disappointed. I thought it was going to be a closer game than this, but I thought Houston was going to win regardless, and they showed just that.
Yeah, I actually picked the Chargers to win this game because I felt like they had enough going into it that was going to take out Houston. Now I'm definitely regretting that because, wow, man, the Chargers, again, this is like the third game that's similar to the other two, right? I mean, like I said, when we look at the big three stats, Chargers put up 261 total yards. Houston was 429, dang near double. 4 turnovers for the Chargers, 3 turnovers for Houston. 15 first downs to 20 first downs for Houston. But then the time of possession is at 25-35 to 34-25, respectively. So, I mean, they dominated them in all the categories. I felt like, guys, Justin Herbert's been in the league for a while now. I mean, for a hot minute. And he's been multiple coaches, multiple offensive coordinators, multiple different types of wide receivers and or running backs. And, when you look at what Dobbins did, what Edwards did, neither one of them produced a damn thing. I think between the both of them, they had 48 yards combined between the two of them. The one bright spot I thought that was with the Chargers was McConkey. Excuse me. That was McConkey, and he had, I think, 197 total yards. I mean, the guy almost had a 200-yard day. So I thought McConkey was a great bright spot for those guys. But I'm starting to look at Justin Herbert a little bit differently now. Like, I don't have a great confidence in what he's able to do, right? I mean, he did, 14 of 32, 242, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, 4 sacks, 31 total yards lost via those sacks. And then he had a QBR of 13.0, or excuse me, a rating of 13.0. I mean, look, guys, this guy had 3 interceptions on the season. He has 4 interceptions on his first playoff game. It's almost like a Dak Prescott. Great in the regular season. Great. But then when you go to the postseason, you just completely poop for a clean version of the bed. So, no. And that's one thing I got. So, I got questions around Justin Herbert. And now there's a question around Khalil Mack. Because now Khalil Mack, who had a really good game, has 6 tackles, 4 solo, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Great game for him. But now he's mulling retirement. So, there's a lot of questions for the Chargers that's come out of this game. And I'm curious to see how it goes in the next season and what changes they make, what changes they don't. But Justin Herbert, God, you need to get on the page, man, because you're getting left behind out of that draft class.
Well said. Tony, Chris?
Oh, by the way, one last thing. I meant to say it in the Commanders game, and I forgot to say it. Is it now time to say that Chicago pooped the bed on that draft selection?
Might be. That's another topic for another day. Too. That's a light bulb idea right there. All right, what's y'all got?
The Chargers, to me, is kind of like the Steelers. I don't think they have the roster to compete.
No.
I mean, I know Herbert's a good quarterback, and I think he'll get on the same page with his coach. He's got a great coach there. I think they got to build the roster, and it's going to take some time because I don't know about the salary cap situation.
They need some more wide receivers.
Need some receivers.
They only got 1.
Running game's got to be better. I think Herbert. I think Herbert's a good quarterback. There's no way I would move on from him. I think he'll be fine, especially with Harbaugh being there.
Sure.
But it's going to. I think it's going to take more than just a year or two. I think it's going to take 3 or 4 years because they got to build that roster back up.
I didn't think they'd be as good as they were this year. To be honest with you, I thought they'd be maybe 500.
Also, I thought the Texans would be a better team than what they were this year. I mean,
yeah, they struggled.
They've been the Texans. If you watch that season, they've been up and down all season.
Well, let's not forget their wide receiver core was been beat up too. Stephon Diggs is out. Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I mean, a lot of their top receivers have been out.
Yeah, but I thought their defense with the people that they picked up was going to be one of the better defenses in the league, and it's been up and down also. So, but I think the Texans could be a dangerous team, but if they get on a roll, but we'll see. Hopefully they can beat Kansas City.
We talked about the rush, and what's interesting to me enough is that the Chargers brought in Zeke Elliott to help them in the rushing game.
He's on the practice squad.
To play him one game. Yeah, he never even saw the field. So why did you bring him in?
Just to say, "What's up, Zeke? How are you doing?"
They brought him in for depth in case of an absolute emergency.
Because I mean, let's not forget both their both their running backs, rather, Edwards and Dobbins, were beat up. Right, they were hurt. So if one of them went down, oh, hey, Zeke, come on, get on the field. You can get us 6 yards for 4 carries or whatever.
Yeah, to me, the Chargers, I agree with you guys. They overachieved this year.
Yeah. Like I said, tough loss, but I thought it was a good year.
You give Harbaugh a year or two, he's going to have them competing in the playoffs and going deep. Yesterday's game that game Saturday didn't change my thoughts on Herbert. I still think he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He's probably the second best quarterback out of that draft class behind Joe Burrow. And then he just had a bad game yesterday. Like you say, threw 3 interceptions all year, and then boom, he had a bad game on Saturday. But a lot of that too, I think, goes back to receivers. I mean, really, only receiver they have on that team is McConkey. They lost all their weapons that they had the year before with Allen and Williams and everybody.
And they had bad draft class too. I mean, they drafted Johnson out of TCU, who hasn't done anything. They need to pick up some better receivers, I think.
The last couple of receiver drafts they haven't done real well in.
No.
And then this year they used their top pick on an offensive lineman, which they should have because they needed that, and it helped them a lot. But
Joe Alt did good work for them this year.
Yeah, they got to get some more weapons on the outside to help Herbert offensively. But like I said, I was disappointed in their defense because their defense had played a lot better than that most of the season.
They had one of the best defenses in the league, but like I said, they didn't have a bad day per se because I didn't think they got dominated in a lot of categories. But
they gave up too many explosives.
That's what it was. They gave up too many big plays. It wasn't just, all in all. But like I said, I thought they did better overall than I thought they'd be. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs, but like I said, a pleasant surprise for them. But that's what I think. So what's next, guys? What do we talk about?
Well, let's talk about the college football playoffs.
All right. We'll save the Texas game for last, so we can wait for Jay and his explosive rant.
What are you trying to say? You're trying to look. I always want to get out the way the first because look, that's a lot of pain and suffering.
No, Jay, that's all. We gotta wait. We gotta keep the viewers locked in.
Hey, look, you do what you want to do, man. If you want to prolong my suffering, go ahead.
All right, yeah, we'll start. Well, the Penn State Notre Dame game was played the day before, anyway, so we'll start with.
Yeah, we'll go with that one. Okay. All right.
Wait, Jay, wait.
Yeah. I mean, I look, to be fair, I picked Penn State to win this game. I thought that they had a better just roster, but apparently Notre Dame said not today. When you look at this game, Riley Leonard outperformed Drew Aller, which I thought was going to be the opposite of what I thought. I thought Aller was going to dominate Leonard because Leonard didn't put up great numbers against Georgia. He was their top passer. I think he had 90 yards and he had 80 yards rushing. But I don't know if he had some extra Wheaties or whatever, but I mean, he looked great. 223 yards, 1 touchdown. Yeah, he had 2 picks, but I mean, in terms of yardage, he looked a lot better and it was more of a threat. I mean, you saw the running game for Notre Dame, which is their strength. I mean, Jeremiah Love had that great touchdown where he was just fighting dudes off to get into the end zone. So, I mean, they showed a lot of guts. Their defense also. I mean, what they did is they contained the Penn State running game of Singleton and Allen. The team as a team had 204 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. But what you did is you made Aller pass the ball, and he couldn't do much. He looked very pedestrian. I mean, 12 of 23, 135 yards, no touchdowns, a pick. I mean, he looked rough. Tyler Warren, obviously, is their best target on offense. He had 6 catches for 75, but he didn't get in the end zone, which is a big factor. And the thing we've talked about with Notre Dame all year is how good their defense is. And they had 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. They had the interception from Christian Gray, but they got the job done. All in all, I mean, that's what good teams do. Obviously, you got the game-winning field goal there at the end, but they were down by 7. With about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they were down by a touchdown. That's just to tie it. Then you had that really good throw there from Leonard over the Greathouse, who had the good catch, and that's kind of what propelled them. And I thought that Notre Dame, that they've just kind of been finding ways to win, right? They've just been doing things a little bit better. I mean, this game also, it's very even, right? In times of possession, 29-56 to 30-04. I mean, pretty much right there. Penalties, 4 and 5. I mean, these teams were pretty much neck and neck for the most part. Yardage, 383 to 339. I mean, this could have went either way, honestly. This was a great game, but credit to Notre Dame. They did it, and they're moving on to the national championship, hoping to bring one home. But we'll see what they have. They just find ways to get plays done, and that's a balanced attack on offense and a really stalwart defense. But I was impressed by the Irish. I didn't think they'd win it, but they proved me wrong. So I thought they looked good overall. Jay, what'd you think about this game?
Yeah, this game was interesting to me. I thought the game kind of started out kind of slow and boring, to be honest with you. It did eventually kind of ramp up a little bit. What the heck? It did kind of ramp up a little bit. Penn State, I thought, did a good job. Penn State did a good job running the ball at 4.9 yards per carry at 204 yards. I mean, I thought they did a good job. Aller kind of a little bit more bland at 135 with the pick. Which obviously that pick obviously led to that field goal, which obviously cost them the game. So it is kind of rough. But then, you look at Leonard, he had 15 of 23 for 223, 1 touch, 2 picks. He kind of pedestrian himself, right? I mean, I just felt like, if it wasn't for that one pick, that's where, it's where Penn State is always that one thing, right? Whether it be Baker Mayfield's fumble that cost the game, or in this case, it was Aller's pick that cost him the game. The one that I thought was interesting was it was a very low penalty game.
Which I love to see.
Yeah, it was, man. Because you look at Notre Dame, they had 4 penalties, but only 30 yards, and then Penn State had 5 penalties at 44 yards. So again, you only talk about nine penalties in total for 74 yards. So very low penalty game. I thought both teams were very disciplined, but I just felt like this was just a little bit more Notre Dame capitalizing on the one big mistake that Aller made, and Notre Dame was able to capitalize on it and ultimately get the win. Now, will they get the win next week? I don't know, but I will say this. I will give you this one question, and it's a history-making question. Can Marcus Freeman become the first Black coach to win the national title? It's never happened.
We'll see. No, it's never happened.
I think for me, and I'm not a big Notre Dame fan because I'm Baptist and they're Catholic and we don't mix. Because I'm too loud and to be a Catholic, you got to be real quiet, and I can't be quiet. And so my Aunt Bev was Catholic, and she took me to a mass one time, and I was singing too loud, so I got kicked out of mass. And my Aunt Beverly gave me a switch in the bathroom. It was a horrible situation. So I realized I only do Baptist universities. I can't do the Catholic university. Okay, nothing against Catholic. I'm just not suited for that religion. Anyway, long story short. I do want to see history being made. I love history-making moments, as long as it's not against Houston or Texas Longhorns. I love history-making moments, and this could be a potential history-making moment if Notre Dame gets that win.
Yeah, and we will see. Also, just want to say Notre Dame, they got the best helmets in the game. Those gold, they look great.
Honestly, I think this game was lost by Penn State in the first half. They dominated. Penn State dominated Notre Dame in the first half of that game. Got the interception in the first half.
The running
it was only up 10-0. Now, first half went perfect for Penn State. It was up 10-0 with the last few seconds left, and then you give up that field goal to Notre Dame and make it 10-3 at halftime. Penn State should have been up 21-3 or 21-0 at that point, but they let Notre Dame stay in the game, and then Notre Dame got hot. Actually, what turned that game to me was the backup quarterback for Notre Dame coming in that last minute of the first half and able to lean down and get that field goal, and that changed the whole momentum of that game. Riley Leonard comes back in the second half, and you get that big punt return for a touchdown. Notre Dame gets it, and the whole game flipped. But I think Penn State was outplayed them by a lot in that first half. Really in the second half played right with them, but they didn't take advantage of how good they played in that first half, or I think Penn State would have won that game.
Interestingly enough, Penn State's coach, James Franklin, fell to 4-20 against ranked teams in AP's top 10. So it's not like, the deck was kind of stacked against him a little bit going into that game almost. Yeah. I don't know if next year, if he can actually crack that or not.
I don't know. I know this is going to be a little bit tougher. It might be a little bit tougher because, it is seeming, right?
College football. To me, in college football, that stat there is a little skewed because, he's lost that many times to the top-ranked teams, but you also have to think he plays Ohio State every year.
Well, that's true. He does.
You know what I mean? Penn State are just now getting to that level back from where they had all the other shit that happened. They're just now getting back to where they're starting to get the money and stuff where I think they're going to start being able to compete with these Ohio States and Notre Dame and some of these other schools.
It might be a little bit tougher now because it's saying, nothing's confirmed yet, but Clemson, they're looking at hiring Penn State's defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, who was top 10, as their next defensive coordinator over at Clemson. I mean, he was top 10 in rushing defense, total defense, scoring defense. I mean, their defense on Penn State was insane. And if you combine that with, Clemson, who obviously has a ton of money they're going to throw out there, I mean, that could look really good for the Tigers next year, but it might be a big blow to Penn State. So nothing's confirmed yet, but it is seeming like that is trending in that direction. So we'll see.
Do you find it kind of weird that Leonard went to the tent for concussion to be evaluated to see if he had a concussion or not? It turned out he didn't have a concussion. He comes out of the tent and then goes for 4 straight scoring drives. I mean, what the hell did they say to him in the tent?
I don't know, man, but it might have just woke him up.
What can you say? Hey, guy. Hey, listen, you want your scholarship? You better go out there and pick and score. I don't know. What do you say in the tent? I mean, because the guy came out like a beast after that checkup, right? It was weird.
No, he looked good. And like you said, also, I mean, credit to you, Chris, for bringing up Steve Angeli, the backup quarterback who went 6-7 for 44 yards. That's all you asked for.
He did.
He helped him in that drive.
He completed that first 15-yard pass, and that was the first positive play Notre Dame had really had in the first half.
That's who could have got the game ball.
I mean, the spurt.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what it is, right? I say Notre Dame isn't super dominant. I know they have good defense and everything, but I think they're a really good team, right?
Their defense is really good.
Their defense is great.
Their offense is
their offense
enough points to stay with Ohio State.
Their offense is very just pedestrian, right? They scored 27 against Indiana, 23 against Georgia, and then 27 against Penn State. So they haven't cracked that 30 mark all postseason. I mean, they their offense is right around there. So they're averaging what they get all year. But like we always say, their defense comes to play. You get 17 against Indiana, 10 against Georgia, and I get 24 against Penn State. But Penn State, obviously, a really good team. So they're doing their job. They're doing their job, guys, and they're going into the championship next Monday, 1 week away.
The other semifinal.
Oh, boy.
It was another real good game. I mean, both the college football semifinal games were real fun games to watch. We had Ohio State end up taking out Texas. Texas, and if you go by the final score, I know a lot of people look at that final score. That game was a lot closer than that final score because they got the last points off on that fumble return, and it looked like Texas was getting ready to tie the game up. So I mean, that was a little closer game than what the final score ended up being. But it was definitely a fun game to watch. As a fan that really didn't have no dog in the fight because my team's IU and they already got put out. But.
Yeah, they got knocked out. But hey, Chang, you've been waiting forever. You've been waiting a couple days.
This game was such a emotional roller coaster for me.
Oh no, hold on. I think we should let Logan go first. And Jay
you think so?
Go ahead, Logan.
All right. Might as well let him suffer more.
I'm still over here suffering. Chris wants me to suffer some more. Chris, right. I liked you until today. Now you want me to suffer some more. Okay, fine.
But Jay, to go back to a point you said about a low penalty game, this was not. For the love of God, this game dragged on and on and on. They had 14 penalties between the two teams.
Yeah, they did. Which
was very surprising. Notre Dame was just undisciplined. Their O-line especially, they had how many false starts, holdings? I mean, they just looked nervous, which is weird, right? Because they look good all year, but they just kind of cracked here. If it wasn't for those 9 penalties for 75 yards, I felt like they would look better for Ohio State. Texas didn't do themselves any favor, 5 penalties for 54. But when you look at this game, and it's kind of been a theme that we've talked about pretty much all day with all these games, whether it's whether it's NFL or college, is where's the running game at? Where's the running game for really both these teams? Ohio State slightly better, 24 for 81 with 2 touchdowns, both of those from Judkins. But I mean, Texas, they didn't really do much either. And Jay, is Jadon Blue? Has he been hurt or I feel like for whatever reason,
he just didn't have a good game. He didn't have a good game, and Weisner didn't have a good game.
Yeah, they didn't look good. 29 for 58. Only averaged 2 yards to carry as a team. No touchdowns on the ground. Quinn Ewers, 23 of 39. He just started chucking it at the end. 2 touchdowns, the 1 pick obviously isn't going to help. I mean, just rough. But also, they had three fumbles as well. Ewers fumbled it twice. He lost one of them, and that was the one at the very end, obviously, where Jack Sawyer bumped his draft stock up even more. Took it to the house. But, yeah, I mean, like Chris was saying, it was at the end where Ohio State really capitalized and won this ball game because Texas was right there. They're right at the end zone. They were hanging out, and they very easily could have scored. But as we saw, that was just kind of the end of that. But I mean, obviously, Jay Ewers is gone. He declared for the draft. So it's time for Arch Manning next season. But that's next year. We're not going to talk about next year. We're going to talk about this game.
Yeah.
And this. So his final performance as a Longhorn, he puts up, I mean, numbers wise, kind of shaky, which kind of isn't that kind of what you've seen all year? It's just you see a couple of good throws, but nothing really consistent. I mean, there's a couple of throws where it just didn't look. He just missed them completely. And I mean, some of the wide receivers didn't do him any favors either. Let's be fair with that. I mean, the one where he threw it right to the guy's chest, but he jumped for whatever reason and missed that one. The one that I was telling you about in our group chat that we have with was that Gunnar Helm, right? I mean, just a performance for Texas that they just didn't have it. And like I said, it wasn't like Ohio State dominated them by any means. I don't think it was like they beat them down, but they were just the better team on that day. But I thought that the thing with this one, the guy who I've brought up, that has been the real kind of driving force behind this Ohio State playoff run. Yeah, the defense has been doing great. But, I mean, Will Howard, he's had another really solid performance. He put up 289 yards through the air, had 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But, I mean, he's been able to throw the ball for more and more yardages, for more completions. He had 24 of 33. I mean, that's been, I think, the driving factor for Ohio State is how well he has played over these last few games. And, yeah, he's not going to take a game over, but he's going to keep his team in it. So I think that's what's been, a big factor for Ohio State and the reason why they're going to the national championship overall. But like I said, this wasn't a dominating performance by any means necessary, but they got the job done against a really tough team. And I thought, big win for Ohio State. And unfortunately for Texas, just came up a little bit short. But, I know Jay is going to reflect on this team, going to talk one more time about Quinn Ewers before he goes into the draft and before we do draft profiles and whatnot a little bit later once we get closer to that. But I think it's time, guys. Jay, the floor is yours. Give your final testament, your final just description about this Longhorns team and their disappointing 28-14 loss in the college football playoff semifinals. Go ahead, Jay.
Start off like this. If I was an Ohio State fan, I would say, or I would channel my inner Dennis Allen and just say, Texas is who we thought they were. God. All you had to do to beat Texas is just go back to the first Georgia game where we stunk up the joint. Ewers got pulled out. Archie Manning got put in. Ewers comes back in. Just go look back at that Georgia game, and that tells you everything you know what we could expect of this Ohio game. I was hoping it wouldn't be the case, but it was. It just was. Howard was 0-3 versus the Longhorns coming into that game. 0-3. We have been dominating this kid. Not today. No, not today. No, we went tit for tat. All game we went tit for tat, right? I mean, it was, okay, you get a score, we get a score, you get a score, we get a score. Up until that fourth quarter, then I don't know what happened.
It just all came apart.
It all just came apart. Here's the thing, right? Texas rushed 29 times for 58 yards, netting 2.0 yards per carry. Now, I will tell you, Blue was actually the star out of it, even though he only had 16 yards, but he only got 4 carries. Yeah. But in that 4 carries, he averaged 4.0 yards per carry. However, Weisner gave you a 17 for 46 and 2.7. So why would you – look, sometimes you got to make adjustments, Sarkisian. I'm speaking to you, Steve Sarkisian. I hope you're watching this. I'm speaking directly to you. Sometimes you got to make adjustments, guy. And if you got a guy giving you 4 yards a carry and you got a guy giving you 2.7, maybe you ought to think about switching it up a little bit. And for the love of God, don't give Ewers the ball. Don't give him the ball. Let him run it. Because that dude went 5 times for negative 18 and gave you negative 3.6 yards per carry. I said all that to say this. I think Ewers, who I told Logan this. I thought initially, before that first Georgia game, the way Ewers was playing, I said, Logan, this guy could get the Heisman. I think the way he's playing, he could actually get the Heisman. And he was, up until the point where that Georgia came into play. And then when the Georgia game came into play, he just went, woo, like torpedoed straight down into the poo-poo den. God. I'm glad he's declaring for the draft. I really am. Because you know what? Seriously. I'm ready for Archie Manning. Or Arch Manning. I always say Archie, but it's Arch. I'm ready for Arch Manning. Because when Arch Manning did play in the game, he only got one play, Logan. But that one play, he ran for 8 yards.
Almost got that first down. It was close.
Ewers had negative 3.6 yards per carry, and was averaging 8. I'm just saying, sometimes you got to make an adjustment. Now, I don't think they necessarily want to go to Archie Manning as the full quarterback, but I do think it's time for Ewers to move the hell on because he was an Ohio State quarterback, which, by the way, did anybody know who stripped him of that fumble in the fourth quarter? Let me help you out. It was Sawyer. I forget his first name. His last name was Sawyer.
Jack Sawyer.
Thank you. And Jack Sawyer and Ewers were roommates in Ohio.
Yeah. Very fitting. Very fitting.
When Ewers played for Ohio State, they were roommates.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be saying that your roommate strips to the damn ball? Of course he
and
is.
takes it to the house.
Ewers.
Yep.
I'm just saying. Okay, let me. But yeah, Ewers fumbled the ball twice. One fumble obviously went for the touchdown. Ewers had a pedestrian game throwing the ball. I don't know, man. He went 283, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 69.6. But it's just those 2 fumbles. His lack of being able to run the ball when he was given the opportunity to run the ball that really just kind of did them in. But I'll wrap it up with saying this. I do think that Archie Manning is going to be able to revive Texas, and it's fittingly enough that we open up the 2025 season against Ohio. God,
against who? The Ohio Bobcats.
Ohio. The debut
Ohio Bobcats.
25. Yep.
It's still against Ohio. It's still
Ohio.
That's going to be a consolation prize right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is a good way to right the wrong. And what's this? Is it John Day or Ryan Day? I can't remember.
Ryan
Day.
Ryan Day. I know you're all happy on the sideline, but come 25, I'm going to introduce you to Archie Manning, and you're going to regret that. That's all I got to say on that game. I'm still sad. It pisses me off. But also,
it was a good game. Honestly, Texas defense, I thought, kept them in that game for a lot of that game with all the turnovers that Ewers was doing with the 2 fumbles, and then you had the interception. Texas defense played real well, especially in that first half, keeping them in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand the play calling when Texas got down to the 1 yard line there in the fourth quarter.
Oh, God.
Let's pitch the ball 8 yards backwards.
Oh, yeah.
Where earlier in the game, you had a 4th and 2, and you go for it. You bring Arch Manning in the run, and he gets 8 or 9 yards against the first down on a 4th and 2. Why don't you try that at the 1 yard line, or or run the ball straight up the middle 4 freaking times is better than pitching the ball 8 yards backwards. I didn't understand. I didn't understand the play call, but I'll be honest with you. I didn't understand really all season. In my opinion, I think they should have moved on from Ewers earlier in the season, and Manning should have and made Manning the starting quarterback early in the season. I think their offense would have looked better going into the playoffs.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
You have any thoughts?
It was a pretty good game. I enjoyed the game. I'm a Big Ten fan. I'm an IU fan, so I'm a Big Ten fan. So I'll be honest, I was rooting for Ohio State. Just like, honestly, I'll be honest. I'm not even though Notre Dame's in Indiana, I was rooting for Penn State because they're Big Ten. So I was hoping for an all Big Ten national championship game. But I do have a question for you guys real quick. What do you guys think having Ohio State and Notre Dame? I think one was the 5th seed, one was the 6th seed, making it to the finals. How do you think that compares to what if it would have been the normal way where the number 1 team and the number 2 team? Number 1 team was Oregon. And who would have been number 2?
Number 2 was Ohio. It was Oregon, Ohio.
No. Number 2 was Georgia. Number 2 was Georgia.
So how do you think?
But we have a number 7 versus number 8 seed.
Okay, that's 7 8. Okay.
I'm all for it. I like the fact it's that uncertainty. I mean, because it's the first 12-team one. There's been plenty of chaos. Obviously, the main takeaway you'll look at is all 4 of the conference champions got kicked out. They had that extra bye week, but it didn't mean nothing. They all lost.
Yeah.
So I like that as opposed to, recent years where it was the 4-team and whatnot. And before that, when it was, the BCS and everything. But I like this because it's 2 teams when you look at them with Ohio State, who, when they're coming into this game, having lost twice on the year, once against Michigan. And obviously the loss with Notre Dame and Northern Illinois, when in recent years that might have cost them at the end. But they figured it out. They got hot at the right time. But I'm all for it. I mean, like I said, I'm all with it. And, once we get a little bit closer to the game day, we'll do a deep dive on both these teams. But I'm all for it. I like it, though.
I like it.
Honestly, I like it. I
love the chaos.
The first time I was kind of skeptical about the 12-team format. But looking at it now, like you said, 7 and 8, we're going at it. I mean, it really blows me away, and I think it's a good thing now. I actually am for this 12-team format.
I like the 12-team playoff, but I do think they need to change that the 4 major conference champions get automatically get the buys and are the top 4 seeds.
Yeah, because it's also tough because it's just they'll tweak it, but it's I
think what they should do is conference championships that automatically gets you in the tournament, but I don't think it should automatically give you a bye. Maybe
that gives you like home field advantage, maybe.
Well,
we did see that.
Should do that all of them, and I think the team that gets the bye, they should get a home game too. Like Oregon being the number 1 overall seed, they should have had at least 1 home game.
No doubt. Oh, and we got joining us today. It's our wrestling and NASCAR aficionado, Big Glenn. What up, buddy? And also, hold on, gotta put respect on it. Our ESCN 2023 and 2024 champion. The belt is on the way soon. And he'll have it in his possession once again. Big Glenn. Is that better, Glenn? Give you a proper introduction.
Yes. I appreciate you guys. How we doing today?
Oh man, we're doing great.
Wait a minute, who is this dude? I don't even know who is this guy on here.
It's fun to see you guys.
Yeah, a fan has hijacked our show.
Hey, what's up, bro?
I think he should send the belt back. I think he's won it 2 years in a row. He should just keep it and see if he wins it next year, and then send it to whoever wins it if he don't.
I told you guys. We talked about that in the chat, so it wouldn't surprise me.
No, Glenn wins everything that he enters. So if he's going to play fantasy, you might as well not even play. He's going to win.
Yeah.
That's not true. That's not true, Gonzalo. I beat Glenn. Now I lost
in the regular season.
I lost the thing, but I did beat Glenn.
But he always wins in the end.
I'll tell you what, does it matter?
Hey, Gonzo, I actually
he was Ohio State. He was Texas.
Hey, I actually told Logan when I beat Glenn. I said I went back to Rocky. He's not human. He's a man after all.
Yeah.
All right. What we'll talk about next? We'll talk about some coaching hires and fires, or what we'll go with here, because we know there's the big one that happened today. We know that there's one that just happened. Pretty much as we kicked off the show. And Jay, we'll just we had you wait. We'll have you start this one off. I feel like it's only fair. Mike McCarthy, he's done. Yeah. He is officially out. Jerry Jones made a good move here, I think.
He made it. You know what? This is the first time I've actually been surprised by Jerry Jones.
In a good way.
Because, he kind of threw me a curveball because, the Bears requested permission to interview McCarthy, and then the Cowboys said no. Well, why are you saying no if you're going to let him go anyway? The only thing I could think of, I think what happened, honestly, Logan, behind the scenes, if I put my investigative hat on, I think Jerry wanted to bring back McCarthy, and I think somehow or another Stephen Jones probably told, yo, Pop, that's probably not the right way to go. Well, I'll tell you what, let's deny permission. Let's deny permission to Chicago. Let's talk about it some more, and then we'll figure it out. And I think Stephen got into Jerry's head finally and said, hey, Dad, no, let's not. And it's a right thing to do. We did not need to bring back Mike McCarthy. Now, there's there's no other coaches out there. There's plenty of coaches out there that are better than Mike McCarthy. There's plenty of coordinators out there that are probably better than Mike McCarthy. The only thing that scares me, and I'm going to end it with this. The only thing that scares me about it is, and I can see Jerry doing this, is if they said, you know what? Let's just promote Mike Zimmer to coach. I swear to God, I can see that happen.
Yeah.
If that happens, I feel like, Logan, if that happens, I'm wearing a paper bag over my head every day after that.
We'll come up with some suggestions for who they'll hire a little bit later. We'll come up with our predictions. But let's just talk about the firing for now.
It was warranted.
I felt like it was written on the wall this year. Yeah. Kind of once Prescott went out after getting the Brinks truck backed up to his house and he got hurt. And then Cooper Rush came in. Everyone thought he was the second coming of Jesus for a couple of weeks. And then that was it. You let go of Ezekiel you signed, who just felt like a Make-A-Wish kid. It just said, all right, here, we'll give you one more chance. And he failed. CD Lamb, I mean, he's just kind of hanging out, Jay, collecting his money. Just an awful season. Again, just awful. They make the playoffs. If they did, they would have got bounced in the first round. But I mean, there's so many issues with the Cowboys, and I mean, you'll be the first one to say it. We'll talk later about all the stuff they need to fix. But I felt like it's time for a change, right? I mean, it just kept kind of sputtering their wheels. They weren't even making it to, super deep in the playoffs. It was rough. And sometimes you need that change of scenery, that culture change. And maybe this is what's going to happen. Like, so we don't know who they're going to hire. There hasn't been really a whole lot of inklings about who they might bring on. But like I said, we're just talking about Mike McCarthy being fired. And it's for Jay, he sees a little bit of sun in a dark, cloudy day. After years of just promises and failures for what, 5 years he was there.
He was there for a hot minute.
Yeah, it felt like 10, but I mean, it goes by long when you're suffering. But it's finally done. Yeah, honestly, and Glenn, you're right, because I mean, he's been in the hot seat for 3 seasons.
I think when you got bounced, when the Cowboys got bounced by the Niners up in San Fran, that
they got dominated, right? That was when they got beat.
Yeah. Oh no, that game is kind of close.
Okay, that was close. Okay.
You talking about the game where we had like 10 penalties, like in the first half?
I think that was it.
God. That was a horrible game. No, seriously, they had 10 penalties in the first half. Do you know how hard it was to watch the Cowboys in the first half of that? It was hard, Logan. It was hard.
No, yeah, and that was that was 1-22. Yeah, that was a tough one. But I mean, under McCarthy, Jay, I mean, just couldn't really get out of you couldn't get out of the division. You'd win a wild card matchup, right? You beat Tampa Bay in 22. You beat he wasn't there in 18, was he? I don't think he was.
So McCarthy has had a couple of 12-5 seasons. This was the first season where Mike McCarthy didn't, or it might have been the second season that he didn't make the playoffs, right? I don't think he made the playoffs his first season, and they didn't make the playoffs this season. But the season's in the middle.
Yeah. So he was hired in 2020. He was hired in 2020. He went 6-10 year one, which, hey, I'm not going to pin it on year one because that's still a lot of players from the years past, right? Then he went 12-5, Jay, for 3 straight seasons.
Yeah.
And then obviously this past year, 7-10.
Yeah.
So he finished his overall tenure with Dallas was 5 years. In 84 games, he went 49-35. And he had 4 games in the playoffs, went 1-3. And all of those was wild card games. He won a wild card game. Whoopee. I mean, what else do you want? I mean, just not great. Not great. I mean,
not great at all.
No,
it's not. He hasn't been. The Cowboys haven't been great since Barry Switzer. Let's just be honest.
You got any thoughts on this?
Switzer was only good because he was getting the roster left over by Jimmy Johnson. All he had to do was stay out of the way and let them do the thing.
You know what's crazy though is the fact that only Jim Irsay could hope for a resume like that though.
You gonna take that, John? You gonna take that?
I see what you guys are saying, but I mean, he was 7-10, and when did Zach? When did Prescott go out?
Like early,
week 4.
Yeah, I want to say around week
4, very early on.
So I mean,
week 4 or something like that. Yeah.
What would the season been if he hadn't got hurt? I mean, I understand what you guys are saying. I mean, but like you said, 12-5, 12-5, 12-5. Didn't win the big game. I know he didn't win the playoff games.
That's what did him in.
And I think that's why Jerry had a hard time of getting rid of him this year because if they would have had this kind of season and Prescott would have been there, I think it'd have been an easier decision. I think that's why it was a harder decision for Jerry Jones to make.
But I will tell you this: even when Dak was there, though, even when Dak was with the Cowboys, and Glenn, I know you'll probably share the same sentiment as a Cowboys fan. It's not like the Cowboys were just lighting it up with Dak. Okay, the Cowboys got $19 million in the hole. I mean, they have no cap space. They have very little room to work with. I mean, it's a tough spot right now in Dallas. It's really tough.
So to go back, Prescott got hurt in week 8.
Okay.
Was it week 8? Okay.
Week 8, he was 3-5, 11 touchdowns, 8 picks. He had a career low, or excuse me, not career low, but 64.7% completion percentage, which is very just not great. And he was sacked 21 times in 8 games. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues, like you said, but overall, it felt like it was time for just a new shift. That they want someone fresh in there. Like I said, and credit, like Tony said, yes, they went 7-10 with their backup quarterback for half the season. Which I mean, you can applaud. They went on that nice, they won a couple of games in a row, but like you knew this team wasn't gonna. If they did make it to the playoffs, they weren't gonna make it super far. They didn't make it, and they felt that it's time for something to win. And look, we know Jerry Jones wants another championship before he calls it. But I thought that, like I said, this might have been overdue, but it's a new day, Jay, and you can finally breathe.
See, I'm different than all you guys. In my opinion, I think Jerry Jones did again. I think this is a big mistake. I think what their biggest problem with the Dallas Cowboys isn't the head coach, it's the roster construction. It's Jerry Jones being the GM.
Of course.
No, yeah.
You're overpaying the quarterback that is average in Dak Prescott, in my opinion. I think that's their biggest problem. Who you gonna go hire right now off the street that's a better coach than Mike McCarthy?
And
Mike McCarthy has a 60% winning percentage over his career. That's the same as John Harbaugh, who everybody thinks is a great coach. Same as Sean McVay, who everybody thinks is a great coach. But because he's in Dallas and they haven't made it to the Super Bowl, which that's expectations every year, everybody kind of wanted to shit on him. I don't think there's a better coach out there than McCarthy. I think Dallas's bigger problem is they need to find the right quarterback and take care of the offensive line.
Oh no, I totally agree with that. Again, I think, but it ultimately, look, there's what I call issues and there's what I call topics. And the issue with the Cowboys is Jerry Jones. Mike McCarthy is just a topic. He is a derivative from Jerry Jones, right? I think the Cowboys need. This is where I kind of different. I think the Cowboys need an innovative coach, maybe like a Bobby Slovic or a young quarterback who has a different envisionment, who has different schemes and different ideas. I just think Mike McCarthy is a little antiquated, from my opinion. I just think he's a little antiquated. That's the only thing I don't like about it. But I totally 100% agree with Gonzo and the fact that Jerry Jones, as we all know, Glenn will tell you, for 30 years we've been living with this terrible head owner. We all know it.
Anyone will tell you that.
Cooper, Zeke, Dak, all those contracts are still counting against the cap. We still haven't got out from underneath. Cooper.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm just under my thought process. The way I view a head coach, because like you said, you think he might be antiquated and need to get somebody that's going to bring some fresh stuff. I think you bring them guys in as your offensive coordinator. You bring in a young offensive coordinator like Slovic to freshen up stuff. But I think as your head coach, you want a leader and a culture builder should be your top two things. I think that's what's hurting the culture right now. Shane Steichen, I think, is a hell of a play caller. If we could bring in Mike McCarthy as the head coach and have Steichen as the offensive coordinator, I'd feel a hell of a lot better about the Colts because I think McCarthy can lead. I don't think Steichen's the leader. I think he's a great offensive coordinator, play caller. I don't think he's a head coach. I think neither's a difference.
There's levels to it for sure. And there was another head coach that was hired here recently, and he's out there in Foxborough now. And unfortunately, Frankie's not here with us, so we can't get his take. But Mike Vrabel, Mike Vrabel's now. He's going to New England. I love it. I thought it was a great hire. I feel like they did Gerard Mayo dirty. They fired him an hour after their season was over, and after that, I mean, it felt like they already had Mike Vrabel's name typed up and ready to go on the front desk. So, and even Robert Kraft will say he handled it bad. He's the first one to say I misjudged that. I didn't handle that good. Which I'm glad he came out and say that, because like they were getting killed from every side saying this was just bad. I don't know if it was a bad move in terms of firing Mayo, but all the other implications behind it I'm not going to get into. But I felt like you didn't really give Gerard a chance, for God's sake. Give him one season. That tells me one thing, and this is just pure assumption. The locker room must have hated that guy. There had to have been something that happened. Because, you don't hire let's not forget, first-time head coach also, so he's still learning what to do. So you already took a big risk on him, and you only give him one season to work and with a bunch of guys he hasn't even really filled out his roster with. So it felt like it was doomed from the start. But looking at just Mike Vrabel, right, I felt like if they were going to hire him, they should have hired him before they got Mayo, because he's a free agent this year. He wasn't even on a team. So,
he was coaching with the Browns. He was working for the Browns as a consultant or something this year.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. Look, Cleveland's just a pit of misery. Right
but
now,
he wasn't a head. Yeah, he wasn't like a head coach, but he was doing some. I think with I want to say offense, was it defensive line or offensive line?
Okay.
He was working with something over there in Cleveland.
I got you, but I felt like they should have hired him last year, right before, because he wasn't a head coach. Like Chris said, he was a consultant or whatever in Cleveland. But a guy who, let's not forget, had 4 winning seasons in Tennessee, which is tough to do. Tennessee's not a powerhouse by hell. Y'all know you're in the same division as them in the AFC South. They went 11-5 and 12-5, their 2 best years. And then, as we know, in 22 and 23, they went 7-10, 6-11, and let's not forget 23 of them said, "Oh, Derrick Henry's washed. He's old." We see that's clearly not the case.
Right. Absolutely.
I think the main thing that hurt Vrabel that we all talked about was poor quarterback play. Tennessee still doesn't have a franchise quarterback on that roster. It ain't Will Levis. I can tell you that much. It wasn't Ryan Tannehill. It wasn't Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Who drafted Will Levis?
That was Tennessee, right?
It wasn't Vrabel. No. Vrabel got fired, and then the new GM and new coach drafted Levis.
Oh, okay. But for some reason I had him, because I thought Levis played.
I'm pretty sure Levis came in the year after Vrabel, didn't he?
So let me look here. Hold on. So
I could have sworn he drafted Vrabel. I thought he had 1 year with Vrabel, and that was it.
No. So okay. So let's see. In 2022, it was Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. In 2023, which was Vrabel's final season as head coach, that was when Tannehill started in 8 games, and they switched to Levis midway through. That's what it was. So but it was a rookie.
Levis and Malik Willis both are crappy, shitty quarterbacks, and both of them fall up underneath Vrabel's tenure.
Well, but that's also that you can also put that on the GM, as well.
Oh yeah, that's the GM for drafting. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of both. I still got to imagine that Vrabel had some sort of input. I don't know if the GM just went solo.
Honestly, Jay, I don't think Vrabel did, because that's why Vrabel was out of Tennessee, because him and that GM didn't get along. We were arguing, and the owner sided with the GM.
Right, because that was actually one of the things that was a knock against Vrabel, was the fact they felt like he couldn't get along with ownership, and that was the thing is, can he get along with ownership?
And the owner sided with that GM, and then they got a new coach.
I remember that being talked about. You're right. My thing about it is the guy went 54-45 in 6 seasons with the Titans, which to me is marginal or average. Like, you're not great, you're not elite, you're average, right? You went 2-3 in the playoffs. That was actually not bad, because that's 75%, win rate in the playoffs. So I gotta give him that. We look at Vrabel, like you say, it's 52% win rate in the regular season, 37% playoff win rate. do with that as you will. Like you said, he had 2 best seasons, was 11-5 and 12-5. I look at his offensive rank under Vrabel, and offensively, in 2018, he was 23rd ranked. In 19, he was 10th. 2020, he was 3rd ranked. That was his best time. And then in 22, he was 17th. 21, he was 17th. 22, he was 22nd ranked. And then ultimately in 23, he was 19th ranked. So this guy doesn't have, if you take out the 2020 season, he doesn't have a good offensive ranking. Now, his defense is on point, but again, this is a defensive-minded guy. So I say it to say this: if I'm in New England, I get $130 million cap space. I got probably one good player in Drake May. The rest of them are pretty much expendable. So he's going to have to go in there and rebuild that entire team under $130 million cap. And I just don't know. Number one, does he have experience in a rebuild? And then number 2, he's going to have a really good offensive coordinator, much like Belichick did with Josh McDaniel. He's got to have a good coordinator.
Well, the rumor is Josh McDaniels is going to be his offensive coordinator. That's what
we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We got to wait and see.
That's what they're saying.
Nothing's official yet, but
not official, but that's what they're saying.
Not official yet, but that's what the.
I do have one thought regarding.
What's up, Glenn?
I was going to say, since we're in the AFC South, I think the next Cowboys coach should be Gus Bradley. Just playing on that one.
And look, it's not like Vrabel's going into a cushy situation. Like Jay said, they have a lot of money, but it's all about who you pay it, who you spend it on, and who you draft. Drake May had a pedestrian rookie year, right? 2,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 picks. Wasn't great, but hell, who was he throwing the ball to? Hunter Henry, Demario Douglas, Keyshawn Boots.
No, they got to do some roster work. The reason
this is definitely going to be a rough year one. Let's be real. This first year ain't going to be magical. No. But should we hold Vrabel accountable year one like we hold Gerard Mayo for?
No.
It all depends on who all they pick up.
At least a 4-year deal. You got to give at least 4 years to really draft it.
Which is why this is a waste of a year for New England. They brought on a new head coach who couldn't do anything because they had no talent.
Yeah.
And they went 4-10, 4-12, 4-13.
I think what killed Mayo was the way he handled press conferences. I think he ruined a lot of the trust with the players. And I think that's why they moved on from him after 1 year.
This ties it back to a bad hire from ownership.
Oh, yeah.
They knew he's never coached anywhere before.
Well, they messed up when they put it in his contract that he was going to be the guy to replace Bill.
That was dirty.
They messed it all up right then.
That was wrong. And like I said, they've already admitted they messed up. So look, I guess water under the bridge.
Hey, I'm not a Patriots fan at all. Patriots
no.
They could lose every game for the next 10 years. I'd be happy. But I do like the hire. I think Vrabel is a good culture builder.
I thought this was a good hire. Yeah.
And I think he'll be able to build that team, build that defense, and if you get a good offensive coordinator, like he did in Tennessee, he brought in Arthur Smith. They turned Ryan Tannehill into almost an MVP candidate.
They give him money.
Well, that's true.
If they can find,
under Vrabel.
Yeah, he has to find a quarterback, and he has to find an offensive coordinator.
I think
they might have their quarterback
because they just drafted him top. I was
going to say they might have their quarterback in May, but if he figured the quarterback position out, I think they'll get it turned around there.
I'll say this: I just wonder if Gerard Mayo had called Vrabel after Vrabel got the coaching position and said, "Yo, bro, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have won that last game. I was kind of screwed with the number 1 draft spot. My bad."
They definitely traded that for a lot of picks.
Oh, it's rough. All right, well, I think that'll pretty much wrap it up here for at least all the coaches for football. Let's see here. Yep, we're going to be going live every day, 2 p.m. Eastern. So check us out on all the platforms we're up on right now. On the network. It's Monday, guys, so I guess we'll do just a quick preview for Monday Night Raw. Glenn, I know you're all excited for it.
I got one quick question.
What's up?
It kind of feeds into that. Who on here are you watching Monday Night Football playoff game tonight, or are you watching Raw on Netflix?
God, how do you even do that?
I'll go ahead and go first.
Back and forth.
It's going to be WWE Raw, and not only because of that,
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously I'm paying for Netflix, so I'm gonna watch it. You know?
Smart. Hey, Jay, look, you can watch both at the same time, right? Raw's on Netflix now. So if you got Netflix, you can put that on your phone, and you can watch the football game on your TV, and you're set. You're good.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. Now that I think about it,
you're all set, man. And also, now that it's on Netflix, you can watch it the next day. You can, I mean, it's already up there. You can watch last week. You can get caught up. So you're all set.
I ain't gonna lie. I'll be watching football and I'll watch Raw later.
I'm watching
that's understood. But I'll do a quick rundown for the show I found here. We'll just do a quick preview. We're not going to talk much about it here, but what they have listed on ringsidenews.com, we've got a street fight with Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Chad Gable versus a mystery luchador. I wonder who the hell that's going to be. I wonder. We have the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship Tournament Finals with Lyra Valkyria and Dakota Kai. We got Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. Also, we're going to have some appearances from CM Punk, Rhea Ripley, and Gunther. So that's just all that's slated for tonight. A pretty stacked show. A lot of big names going to be on it. Not as big as last week, obviously, with the debut and whatnot, with all the legends coming back. And I don't think they're going to bring back Hulk Hogan for this go around. I think they're going to keep him in the back, brother. And it'd be a great idea.
They're still in California, aren't they?
Yeah, San Jose.
Yeah, they're still in California. So I think they're in San Jose this week. So I think they told them to just stay in the back.
Whoever thought it was a good idea to bring Hogan out in California? I was like, any other state you could have brought him out. Maybe, but not California.
Yeah, he's got a checkered past. We'll just say that, and you all can do research about what all he's done and said in previous years.
Hey, really quick, Gerard asked, what's our live schedule? So I did want to kind of touch on that. So we are Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Just want to kind of put that out because I know he'd asked about it.
Obviously, the topics will change every day. We'll talk about all the current stuff, just all what's going on in the world, whether it's sports, whether it's some big stuff in entertainment. If there's any big movies that come out or anything, there's too many sequels going on right now. I'm tired of movies. Man, there's too many sequels going on. I need some originality, for God's sake.
Don't tell me, I'm getting ready to go watch Braveheart 2, killer.
I'm in a sequel to Braveheart. Jesus. Come on.
Yeah, look, if you can do a sequel to Beetlejuice, you can do a sequel to Braveheart.
Yeah, we'll like I said, we'll touch on just whatever's going on.
We'll be, me and Chris and some of our guys here at GWR will be on tonight on the network and on our network.
Yeah, what's all got going on tonight?
At 6:30, we have a wrestling show, independent wrestling, and we'll talk pro wrestling too. That's at 6:30. That's every Monday night.
Yep. So in about 2.5 hours Eastern, we'll have some more live content for y'all, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide pretty much as much content as we can. We have now 10 shows, I think, now. So we've always got content. We just had an episode of Geek Gauntlet, our comic, our video game, our show went up the other night. Go check that out. We got a bunch of other great stuff coming up. So be sure to subscribe to our channel, to Chris's channel, the GWR, GSR, and all the other great shows we have here. Of course, link trees in the description, so you can find all of that on our main network. You can go and just flip through. We have so many shows pretty much every single day. So we're covered. We've got y'all covered wall to wall with whatever you feel like, football, baseball, not even sports related. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I've seen some boxing and some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We got boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, of course. Glenn, do you have any Pacers game you're going to up here recently?
Tomorrow.
All right. Who they got tomorrow?
Cleveland once again.
All right, and like I said,
you got the number one team in the league tomorrow, killer.
Yeah, we beat them last night.
Yeah.
So,
oh, nice.
We can win back to back. That would be nice. And like I said, Glenn, as always, we love getting your live feed, your previews at the game, at the field house. So we appreciate that. And guys, keep following us on all these on TikTok for probably about a week more, and then it looks like that might be it for that. But we had a good run. We had a good run over there. That's just how it is. So I'll make a nice video at the next Sunday or whatever, and just kind of put a cap to that, since it seems like they're going to be kicking TikTok off. So unfortunately,
we're going to be losing over from TikTok over to Instagram.
Yeah, we have a page, but we need to I think with TikTok shutting down, we'll start going heavy on our Instagram. We'll start promoting that more. Pretty much if and when that does seem to happen. But we still got a couple more days. We still have a lot more shows, right? We're this is our debut show. We're just here.
Absolutely.
We started off a little bit shaky in the beginning. We it's a debut. So we can only get better, right? We can only get better from here. But
I was waiting for a little. I was waiting for an intro to come on. I looked up and said live. I was like, we're live.
Oh no! I kept sitting there like, dang, we're at 13 seconds.
Yeah,
come on. Damn word.
Yeah. We'll blame it just on technical.
Sitting here look pretty. My wife said,
hey, just like Zane Gonzalez, just comb my hair, just make sure I look good.
Yeah. Just put a hat on.
Yeah. Just do the Glenn route and put a hat on. How about that? All right. Well, Jay, I'll have you do the outro today, I guess. How about that? We'll just figure this out as we go along. But Jay, you're a good hype man. So what do you got to say for our final thoughts? And I'll end the stream.
Yeah, final thoughts of this, man. Look, we got lots of stuff coming up, man. You want to check us out tomorrow, man. We're probably going to do more not recaps. We're going to start getting into some predictions now, right, Logan? I imagine we're going to do NFL predictions, and we're going to do college predictions. I mean, there's a lot of predictions. Obviously, I'm sure we'll talk a little Raw, maybe even since Raw's on tonight. And then we'll have, obviously, the recap of the Rams and Vikings game tonight. Go Rams, because we hate the Vikings. And from there on, man, continue to watch us, man, because we're only going to get better. This is our debut show.
I think Vikings are going to beat the Rams.
Yeah, well, let's say we'll talk about all that. We'll talk maybe a little college basketball. I know the APs just came out today, so we'll see who all's been moving up and down in that, and men's and women's, and God, just so much more. So,
one last thing. Make sure you please like and subscribe. If you like all the content and all this craziness that we're bringing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That's how we get known to more people and we expand our reach. So if you like what we're putting out, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does mean a whole hell of a lot to us.
All right. And on that note, guys, we'll see you again tomorrow live at 2 p.m. Eastern. We thank everyone for coming on the show. We thank Frankie for hopping in the beginning, Glenn for coming on a little bit late and giving us his expertise on everything. Jay, of course, for representing his Cowboys and getting all of his frustrations out with the Longhorns and everything. You finally got it off your chest after a couple days, so I know it feels better. And, of course, for Tony and Chris, the Gonzalez duo doing their great job hosting today. And, guys, it's our debut. There's only one of those, so we got through it. Great show overall. And like I said, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll see you all.